Welcome to Maundy Thursday here at Old Stonewell Farm, or perhaps you know this day as Holy Thursday. That's what I grew up with when I was just a girl. It was always Holy Thursday. But Maundy comes from the Latin that means mandate. And we remember that this is the day that Jesus gave the mandate to love one another as he has loved us. And he gives that command, that mandate to love one another as he is gathered for the Last Supper with his friends in the upper room. And we know that one of them will betray him, and it will lead him to be arrested and go to the cross. But here today on Maundy Thursday, I am in the kitchen of my 18th century home because I am going to prepare a traditional Swiss soup called Seven Greens Soup. As you can guess by the name of the soup, there are 7 greens in it. And so I've collected the parsley, the leeks, the spring onions, the chives. I have some spinach and asparagus. I think that's not quite 7. I'm going to have to find some green herbs to add to the soup. But the 7 greens soup is a traditional Swiss dish that is served on Maundy Thursday. And some say that the soup got its name because the priests back then, centuries ago, would wear green vestments on Maundy Thursday to symbolize the end of the Lenten fast and to symbolize the new life, springtime, new life, resurrection that is just around the corner. Others say that the soup was a celebration in a way after a long, hard winter, that things began growing, and so all of a sudden there was now fresh vegetables to eat. And what better way to break a Lenten fast than with something healthy, a soup made with 7 greens. There are still some who say that the name of the soup, Seven Greens Soup, actually comes from an archaic German word that means grieving, but it is very similar to the word green. I love the symbolism that is in this soup, the 7 greens. Now, I've seen recipes that have 9 or even 12 greens, but I like the 7 because I like to ponder as I'm making this soup. I think about Jesus's 7 words from the cross, his last words from the cross. And so with each green that I take, I will think about one of the words that he spoke from the cross as I prepare it. You know, making a soup really does slow you down and puts you in that mindful space, that holy space of just pondering and thinking and praying. You know, we live in such a fast society where if you want some soup, you just open up a can and, you know, throw it in a pot or throw it in the microwave. But actually preparing a soup is a spiritual act. So today, for Maundy Thursday, I'm going to prepare the 7 green soup as I reflect on not only Jesus's last words from the cross, the 7 last words, but I'm going to think more about Jesus's mandate to love one another. What is this love that he wants us to share so boldly out in this world? What do we need to be reminded of when it comes to love? So come, let's start preparing our soup as we begin to enter into the holiest of days, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, that will lead us to the beautiful empty tomb of Easter Sunday. Let's start, and I need to find a 7th green for the soup. What I really like about this recipe is so easy, and it is really refreshing and very healthy for you. So I'm just taking some vegetable stock. You could use chicken stock, pre-made, or if you make your own, God bless you. I have yet to make my own stock. I don't know why. Maybe I'll put that on my bucket list. So I sauteed some butter with some garlic and some spring onions. And then the next step is very, very easy. You just start to put your greens in. Again, 7 greens, and I think about Jesus's 7 last words on the cross. What will you think when you make this soup? As I said, maybe think of 7 people that you could pray for, 7 people you could bless. Think of 7 things that perhaps are a blessing in your life. Or since we are making our way to Good Friday, think about 7 ways in which in your life you can die to yourself. Die on the cross yourself so that you can be fully present to Jesus. What needs to be nailed to the cross? Any baggage that you're carrying, any hate, any envy, any doubt, any distrust, whatever it might be that's holding you back from truly the love of God and the new life that God is promising to us at Easter time. What do you need to leave at the cross? 7 things. So again, just put all the greens into the soup and have it all come to a boil. Now, the recipe does call as well for some potatoes, but I forgot to buy potatoes and we don't have any. I tried planting potatoes in the garden last year and they didn't quite work out. So I don't have potatoes, and I think that is a real mistake. I do think you need potatoes for this soup, but soup is very forgiving, and most soup recipes all stem from just having what you have in your pantry. So I'm going to do a poor man's 7 greens soup. So I'm just going to cut up the leeks right now. This soup is beginning to smell so delicious with the leeks and the spring onions and the garlic. And of course, I have to add parsley to it, not only because the parsley will give it a beautiful, vibrant green color, but in the Passover meal at the Seder, parsley is one of the food items that's on the table. And during the Seder meal, which commemorates the Passover, the passing safely over from the bondage of Egypt and crossing over the Red Sea and God delivering God's children safely, well, one of the elements on the Seder table is a bowl of parsley next to a bowl of salted water. And at one point in the Seder meal, you dip the parsley into the salted water. Now, the parsley is kind of bitter, so it echoes the bitter tears that were pouring from the eyes when people had to leave their home and escape Pharaoh's wrath and begin this God adventure. So the bitterness of the parsley, but then dipped into the salted water, represents the salted water from our tears. So I think adding the parsley not only gives this soup a great green color and some extra kick to it, but as I add it, I think about what the parsley represents at the Seder meal. So I think that's enough parsley for now. And so now I'm going to add the spinach. It looks like it's a lot of spinach, but as you know, spinach wilts, and you do need a lot. So I'm going to put the spinach in the soup. And as I do that, and as the spinach is going to be cooking down a bit, I want to ask you, out of the 7 last words that Jesus spoke from the cross, Which one resonates with you? Which one do you lean towards? Which one gets you thinking the most? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Today, you will be in paradise with me. Or is it perhaps when Jesus looks down at his mother and his beloved disciple, and he says, behold your mother, behold your son. I want to ask you this Maundy Thursday and Good Friday and even Holy Saturday, these 3 days that lead us into the celebration of Easter, to think about one of Jesus's last words from the cross. Pick one and really hold it in your heart and pray on it and ponder. Be it, Father, forgive them. What is forgiveness? What was Jesus saying when he says, this is your mother, this is your son? What is family? What does it mean to really care for one another? So pick one of Jesus's 7 last words from the cross, and the one that just captures your attention, your imagination, that enters into your heart, that perhaps troubles you a bit, or you wonder about, whatever it might be. Don't overthink it. Just hear Jesus's last words from the cross, hear them, and which one do you want to hold in prayer and hold in your heart until Easter morning? So that's your assignment. This soup is delicious, and I can only imagine how much better it would taste if I actually had all of the ingredients, if I actually had a blender to make it smooth, and if I actually had cream to make it creamy. But I began this time together as I was making the soup by telling you that the word Maundy comes from Latin, meaning mandate, and that stems from Jesus's last commandment, last mandate to everybody, to love one another. So when he leaves this earthly journey of his, he says, I'm going to go, but I want you to love one another. So I want to talk to you more about what that love is, because I think we get it wrong a lot of times, or I think we lose focus of what that mandate to love was all about. And to help us, I discovered the writings of Bell Hooks. She was an activist, a social critic, African-American woman, and I believe she passed away last year. But she wrote several books, and she was very influential in race and gender issues. And a 2000 book that she wrote was called All About Love, and she wanted to really tackle what love is. And so I turned to her book for some help understanding what Jesus' mandate to us on this Maundy Thursday, to love one another, what he might be asking of us. And Bell Hooks really helped me to think about Jesus' mandate in a new way that perhaps will make this world a better place. For starters, Bell Hooks says, the choice to love is the choice to connect. The choice to love is the choice to connect, to find ourselves in the other. Now, I never thought about love like that, The choice to love is a choice to connect. So love is really about connecting with one another in an amazing way, a healing way. And we get to choose that. We choose to connect and we choose to isolate. We choose to welcome or we choose to keep people out. And so love is about making that choice to connect with humanity, to connect with brother, sister, to connect with the divine, to make a connection with one another. Because when we do finally connect with one another, that's when we start to see each other. That's when we start to really hear one another. When we choose to connect with the other, we begin to see that the other isn't so different from us at all. So yes, blessed is the tie that binds us all together. And there is one blessed tie that binds us because we are all children of God. So Bell Hooks says to choose love is to choose to connect. And so I had to ask myself this Maundy Thursday, am I really connecting with others? Am I really connecting with God's broken world? How can I show more love in terms of reaching into places that I would never dare to venture into in order to understand better, in order to connect? Bell Hooks also reminded me that the light of love is always within us, just waiting for a spark to ignite it. I found that very powerful as well this Maundy Thursday to be reminded that even on the days when I feel unloved or I feel incapable of giving love or making connections with others, when I feel like a big grump some days, and I think we are all feeling a bit grumpy these days. I had a conversation with a pastor friend of mine, and I mentioned here before that I was a little bit sad that we haven't emerged from the pandemic a kinder, gentler people, but rather we seem more agitated and sharp with one another and just nasty. But she said that we're all carrying around trauma these last 2 years, and that trauma, we act out in that pain and that just, the uncertainty that has ruled our lives for 2 years, that it's trauma. And what we're seeing is not really that we're emerging as nasty people, but we need to know how to heal that trauma, or at least name it. So when Bell Hooks wrote, the light of love is always within us, always present, waiting for the spark to ignite it, I found it so reassuring that love never leaves us, never. If we are children of God, then there is love within. Even the grumpiest person, there's love within. And it's just waiting for a spark to ignite it. But to love means you have to respect one another. And you have to make the effort to connect with one another, to understand the other better. To remember that we are all flesh and blood, that we all hurt, we all cry. So when Jesus said on Maundy Thursday, his Last Supper, gathered with his friends, I have one more mandate, one more commandment before I go. My friends, love one another. And that love we have to choose to embrace. To choose love means to choose to connect. So ask yourself this Holy Week, this Maundy Thursday that is going to turn into Good Friday, that will turn into Holy Saturday, that will then turn into the glorious Easter celebration. Ponder and ask, are you choosing love? Are you choosing to connect with the world, with God's world? Love one another as Jesus loved us. Well, Scripture tells us that after Jesus and his disciples, they were done with their supper, they sang a hymn, and they went out to the garden. where Jesus would pray for the cup of suffering to be taken away.
Go to dark Gethsemane, all who feel the tempter's power. Your Redeemer's conflict see. Watch with him one bitter hour. Turn not from his griefs away. Learn from Jesus Christ to pray.
Well, surprise, surprise, just a postscript here. My husband reminded me that, yes, we do have a blender. We have an immersion blender. I had no idea. You could tell that I spent a lot of time in the kitchen. So either way, this was the soup before and what it looks like after.